River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in this House for a second time to talk on C-15, an act to implement certain provisions of the budget tabled in Parliament on March 22, 2016. Specifically, I plan to address issues of budgetary concerns that will have a direct impact on my riding of North Island Powell River. We are currently at the report stage, so I will also be discussing a few of the NDP's proposed amendments to this bill. 36 amendments were tabled in committee by the opposition parties. 15 of them came from the NDP. Mr. Speaker, these amendments would not have made this a progressive budget in my eyes, but they were crucial and would have had the ability to make this bill passable. Unfortunately, without them, I'm afraid I will have to oppose the main motion at report stage. As you know, the Liberals decided to listen to the false majority, rejected most proposed changes in committee, and introduced time allocation in the House after only 2 days of debate. The Liberal government campaigned on a promise of more help for the middle class. In the communities that I serve, I hear from people who identify as middle class, but who make less than $45,000 a year. I also represent people who are the working poor and struggle day to day to make ends meet. This tax break does not help these people, Mr. Speaker. At a time when Canadians need a government to tackle growing income and wealth inequality, the Liberals went the opposite direction. Everyone agrees that those in the highest tax bracket earning $210,000 or more, Mr. Speaker, will benefit the most from the Liberals' so-called middle-class tax cut. 6 out of 10 Canadians will get nothing from this Liberal plan. What sets New Democrats apart is our belief that the government should be tackling inequality, not compounding it. One community in my riding is facing a very painful reality. A mill has closed down and has been shut down for almost 2 years. There is no word yet to the community on if it will reopen or not. But the impacts have been extremely painful, and I have been so grateful to the people who have contacted my office to share their stories and to ask for help. The people in the communities I serve, Mr. Speaker, are hardworking and dedicated to the communities they live in. This tax break does not help them in their process to revision their family or their community. New Democrats propose to modify the tax cut so that working class and middle class Canadians would benefit from tax changes. The PBO confirmed today that the NDP plan would benefit 9 million more Canadians and have a much fairer distribution of benefits. It is time for a government who will be more fair to those who work so hard in our communities. Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago I started a tour in my riding of North Island Powell River for town halls to have a conversation on seniors' issues. I listened to their priorities so that I can understand their needs better and work to ensure that they're met. In a riding as large as mine, I have completed only a third of the area and look forward to completing the rest. But I will tell you, Mr. Speaker, that these voices were strong and often unanimous. I was deeply touched and startled by the stark realities they shared with me and who have supported us in building this country. Many of them are now feeling completely abandoned. I've been in Ottawa for nearly 8 months now, and I am astounded to witness how little we have spoken about the needs of our elders. The budget doesn't include any additional provisions for home care or palliative care, even after the Liberals promised $3 billion for home care during the campaign. I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, in the riding of North Island Powell River, it is desperately needed. How many more years till we see money or even a strategy in place to meet the needs of Canada's seniors? By 2036, the number of seniors will double. It should be a critical question we are asking in this House, planning for now and for the future. When the federal budget was introduced, we did welcome the government's recommendation to increase the GIS for single seniors. But let's remember, on the campaign trail, the Liberals' promise was to help them immediately. Why are seniors having to wait until July? The NDP moved to make the increase to the GIS retroactive to January the 1st. The Liberals rejected our amendments. But the seniors in my riding can count on an MP that will have their interest in mind. It is rare for politicians to agree on anything, but during the election, all three parties promised to lower the small business tax rate to 9%. Liberal MPs still have yet to keep the election promise they made to small business owners that would have a break on their taxes. New Democrats have been fighting for a long time for tax cuts for small businesses, which are the real job creators in Canada. In the communities I serve, our natural resource industries have taken many hits. Now, with less of these jobs, small businesses have stepped up to the challenge of working in the communities to create economic development and local jobs. Vague comments about hoping that people will have more money to spend, which will be good for small business, is not enough. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and in rural and remote communities, often dedicated to supporting the communities in so many ways. It is time to return the favor to these small businesses, give them what they need so they can make choices which will help communities across Canada. The NDP proposed 2 amendments at the Standing Committee of Finance for Liberal government to reconsider the tax increase for small and medium-sized enterprise. Not only did the Liberal members of the committee reject all amendments proposed by the opposition, but on many occasions they remained silent and refused to explain their decisions. Dan Kelly, President and CEO of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, said it best. So you can imagine our surprise on Budget Day when we heard that Budget 2016 proposes that the small business tax rate remain at 10.5% after 2016. We've been trying to figure out why the government did this. Some reasons have been floated. I have to say, after meeting with several cabinet ministers and many MPs of all parties, there has been no suggestion as to why the government chose to take this action. I would like to thank my colleague and neighbouring MP for Courtney Alberni for standing up for small businesses. In the last weeks, he has launched a campaign that encourages small businesses to send a broken promise invoice to the Liberal government. In total, the cancelled tax reduction will cost Canadian small businesses $2.2 billion over the next 4 years. Many small business owners were counting on these scheduled reductions. They could have upgraded their operations or given their employees a raise. Now they feel betrayed. I encourage all small businesses in my riding to stand with us and send these invoices to the Liberal government. Consecutive Liberal and Conservative governments have given massive tax giveaways to Canada's most profitable corporations. Meanwhile, the NDP is a party that offers tangible solutions that can make a difference for those who need it most. We are listening to small business. Budget time is the government's opportunity to start capping transaction fees for credit cards and facilitating the transfer of family businesses between generations. These are small changes that would go a long, long way. The Liberals repeatedly criticized the anti-democratic behavior of the Conservatives with their omnibus bills. Now that they are in power, they are repeating this practice. C-15 is a large bill. It has 179 pages, amends over 30 separate statutes, refers to 9 different ministries, and impacts several others. Moreover, it retroactively repeals an act and proposes retroactive changes, includes a complex chapter on bank recapitalization, and proposes changes to employment insurance. This budget and its implementation bill simply do not meet the needs of the vast majority of the people I serve. Unfortunately, like his Liberal predecessors, the Prime Minister has given us an omnibus bill that puts tax relief for CEOs and big, profitable corporations ahead of help for many hardworking Canadians, unemployed workers, and small and medium-sized businesses. At a time when Canada needs a government that will combat rising inequality, the Liberals' first budget is inadequate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Question commentaire. The honourable member for Pontiac.
Thank you to the member opposite for her speech, and I appreciate the intent behind it, which is to fight for lower and middle-income Canadians. But I would ask her, the honourable member, what does she think about the measures taken by this government in the budget to enhance, or rather establish, the Canada Child Benefit and provide for families earning $30,000 or less $6,400 tax-free for children under the age of 6 and $5,400 for children between the ages of 6 and 18. Does that strike her as a measure that is helpful to the middle and middle-class Canadian?
The honourable member for North Island, Powell River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the honourable member for his question. When you see communities that are ravaged in some cases with poverty, knowing that there's a little bit of help coming specifically to families, I gratefully appreciate that, and I believe the families in my community will also appreciate it. But it does not touch the core issues. There were so many people in my riding that spoke about not having a family, being single, being older. What are they going to do? Talk to people in my communities that were facing challenges of 3 people living in a 1-bedroom apartment. We need to make sure that we're looking at inequality in a wholesome way, that we're answering the cries from the communities that we serve. I also want to say that that money will help, but it doesn't touch the underground core need for affordable childcare. When I knocked on doors across my riding, I talked to many women who had to make desperate choices to not work because they simply could not afford to work, Mr. Speaker. So when you have to making those choices, it's not fair, it's not right, and we have to do our job in this House to discuss these important issues and make sure that we are doing what we need to do. And although the child tax benefit will be supportive to those families, it certainly will not answer that specific need. That money does not create more affordable childcare. It does not create enough spaces in the communities that I serve.